Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into Morning JOX. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you, ready to get you set up for another fantastic weekend of college football action here across the state of Alabama and across the entire southeastern portion of the country. So appreciate you tuning in, making us a part of your day each and every day here on Morning JOX, your home for college football and much, much else. But let's hit the ground running today, Damian, because you've got a lot to get to. Of course, we're going to deliver our picks for you coming up around 6:30. We're going to give you our picks for the weekend's biggest games around the college football world, but we have a lot to get to between now and then because this is one of those wonderful times of year where you just have so many options in the sense of you've got Major League Baseball still going on as that season's coming to a close. You've got some really great postseason action, starting to get some basketball going at the same time. You've got college football, you've got professional football, you've got just about everything that you could want as a sports fan available to you right now. And last night was certainly one of those nights where you got a little flavor of everything. So let's look back before we look ahead. And last night, you had Thursday night football going on Amazon Prime, of course, and a game that going into it, I'll be honest, I didn't know how much of this game I was going to watch because I just really didn't think it was going to be a very compelling game.
You were banking on the under.
I was absolutely banking on the under because you have a Pittsburgh Steelers team that has been pretty solid so far. Aaron Rodgers has definitely looked better than he did at any time with the New York Jets. So he's looked a little bit more like his old self. Joe Flacco now taking over for the Bengals, but it's just been tough sledding for the Bengals after you start off 2-0, then Joe Burrow goes down, and it's been tough sledding since then. And the Jake Browning days were painful. But that's a good thing because Joe Flacco's here now, and Joe Flacco's here to take care of the Bengals and get them back on track. And that's absolutely what he did last night as the Cincinnati Bengals took down the Pittsburgh Steelers 33-31. So as I mentioned, you had two quarterbacks over the age of 40 going at it. So there were all kinds of fun nicknames going around last night for this matchup. But how about Joe Flacco? 342 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Aaron Rodgers, not too shabby either. He threw for 249, 4 touchdowns, but he did have 2 costly interceptions for the Steelers last night. But Joe Flacco certainly getting the better end of that matchup there. Jamar Chase, an absolute monster last night. Unfortunately, playing somebody that has him on their fantasy team this week. But he had 16 catches for 161 yards and a touchdown.
It's a great day at the office.
Well, it's, and this was kind of the thing with Jake Browning is, I have to imagine Joe Flacco came in here and said, so do y'all have what's the deal? Y'all play like some game where you don't throw the ball to Jamar Chase? Is there like something going on here? It's like, no, Joe, just, it's like, so I can throw it to him every time if I want to.
Absolutely.
If you want to. And that seems to be a pretty good recipe for the Bengals offense. So yeah, he had an absolute monster game. But it really was, it really was an entertaining game. The Steelers went up 10-0, and then the Bengals score a quick touchdown. Then they get an interception immediately after that, and they're able to go and take the lead on a T. Higgins touchdown. And it was just kind of this. It looked like Damian was saying, right? The under was going to hit. The Steelers were going to walk out of there and just cruise to a victory. But after the first quarter and a half or so, the Bengals flipped that switch, and they scored 33 points in the final 3 quarters of the game. So really exciting win last night for the Bengals. They're up 3-4 now, 2-1. Or excuse me, where are they in the division? I don't know. Never mind. But they're 3-4 overall. The Steelers are 4-2 overall now. But an exciting game last night nonetheless.
Yeah, and you kind of got the OGs out there, Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco. Had this been, 2011, 2012, you could arguably say 2 of the better quarterbacks in the league at the time. Joe Flacco kind of, he's fallen under the radar for most of his career, especially on the back end. It's kind of, how does he keep a job if he's aging? And then last night you kind of got it on full display of, okay, now I see why you keep him on your roster. Like I thought he was just a glorified offensive coordinator at this point in his career. But nah, it's, hey, Unc still got it. It's like, okay, Joe Flacco, we see you. I do have a question for you.
What's
Is
that?
Joe Flacco a Hall of Famer?
No.
You don't think so?
No. He had one really spectacular season. Well, one really spectacular postseason.
Right. And I think the longevity of his career, it's awesome. And when you look at his numbers, you're going to look back and say, oh, I didn't realize Joe Flacco threw for this many yards. Then you realize, he played for 37 years. So it's like, okay, the
He's just,
longevity question.
yeah, no, he's in the hall of really good players.
Gotcha.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not. But shout out to Aaron Rodgers, too, because, because how bad it looked with the New York Jets, you didn't think that you didn't know he still had a cannon attached to his arm because he releases the Hail Mary from the minus 30, and it lands in the end zone, and it's okay. He still got something in there. Maybe that may be his last good throw in him, because as you age, it comes in spurts, it comes in waves. But I was thoroughly impressed with both of the older quarterbacks that we got last night. But yeah, it just I'm kind of like you going into the game. I kind of assumed Pittsburgh's going to handle their business. It didn't feel right. Joe Flacco, it's like, it's not, he's no Joe Burrow. Maybe he could find a way to get it to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Well, I didn't know he was going to do it at that level. And I think last night kind of reminded, because if you're the Bengals, you kind of lost everything with Jake Browning because you assume that, this season is we'll just tank and just go, see what happens. Well, now you got a little bit of juice because you knocked off the number one team in your division. So it's okay. It's early enough in the season. If we mess around here and make a nice little run, who knows? Joe Flacco may win comeback player of the year the second time of his career?
Yeah, because he won it with the Browns 2 years ago.
He's Captain Comeback at this point.
That certainly seems to be the case. And you've got the Jets and the Bears coming up. So if you're the Bengals, this would be a good opportunity to potentially take advantage of that. But as I was trying to mention a second ago, so Pittsburgh at 4-2, they're in first place in the AFC North. The Bengals at 3-4, they're in second place in the AFC North, and that's because the Ravens and Browns are both 1-5. So still some hope if you're a Bengals fan that maybe they can turn this thing around and get it on a good track in order for Joe Burrow to come back and potentially late in the season and have a chance at a playoff run. So we will have to wait and see. But a good football game last night to get the NFL week started. You did have some college action as well, as East Carolina took down Tulsa 41-27. So East Carolina, they're now up to 4-3 and 2-1 in the American Conference. Tulsa 2-5. They're now 0-4 in the American. So a rough stretch there for them this season. But good for the Pirates. Big win.
How bad is Oklahoma State?
Oh, really bad. Yeah, for them to lose to that Tulsa team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason they fired Mike Gundy.
Yeah, and for Tulsa, since then it's okay. Like y'all also aren't that good either. So yeah, we had to suffer through that game on that Friday night, and it's like, okay, well, it was a great story, and that was also their last victory. So
yeah, it's a
tough one.
Yeah, been tough sledding for them, but they'll always have that one. They can always be the school that got rid
of Mike Gundy.
They got rid of Mike Gundy. So that's what went on in football last night. You had a little bit of baseball action as well as the NLCS and ALCS wind down and we get closer to that World Series matchup where it looks like the Dodgers will certainly be one representative there as they took down the Brewers 3-1 last night. So they are now up 3-0 in the NLCS. The Brewers going to have to pull some 2004 Red Sox out of their hat if they want to have a chance to come back in that one. But, yep, Dodgers look exactly like we expected them to. But you got to give a shout-out to Jake Mazurowski there for the Brewers. He came in yesterday in relief, had 9 strikeouts in relief, trying to just have some semblance of hope for the Brewers. But the Dodgers just a little too good. And the Blue Jays' bats have woken back up as the Mariners took a 2-0 lead in the ALCS. And now back-to-back nights, the Blue Jays have put on an offensive showing as they took down the Mariners 8-2 last night. That series now tied up at 2 games apiece. So that's what's going on in Major League Baseball. And then the trifecta. You had basketball because Ballin and Boutwell went down yesterday. You had Alabama, Florida State, women's and men's teams playing an exhibition yesterday. The women's team for Alabama, they took the victory early on in the day yesterday and really set the stage for a very entertaining matchup between the men's teams yesterday evening. If you're able to catch any of it, some of you I'm sure were there in the arena, but I was watching along on YouTube with the stream that they had going on there, and it was an entertaining basketball game, man. Now, defense certainly going to have to get better for both of these teams moving forward, but this is why you play exhibitions. So Alabama, they get the close victory. They squeak it out 109 to 105
Oh yeah.
over Florida State. It was, if you liked offense, there was plenty of it. And I think one takeaway for Alabama, even though it's an exhibition, is you won this game with no Latrell Wrightsell, no Noah Williamson, and no Jalil Bethea. So you had three guys out that coming into the offseason you expected to be big-time contributors. And, so we knew Jalil Bethea, he had to have surgery. He's going to be out for a while before he's able to come back. Not totally sure what Noah Williamson's deal is. He transferred in as well from the Patriot League this year. He's a big 7-footer. And then Latrell Wrightsell, I did hear that he was okay. It's just, they're not going to put him out there in an exhibition and risk, a re-aggravation of an injury or anything like that. So he should be fine. If it was a regular season game, he would have gone. It's just they're being careful with Wrightsell. So that's why he wasn't out there. But I will say this, for the first half at least, a lot of the same issues from last year prevailed for Alabama. Turnovers were a problem. You had 12 in the first half. Free throw shooting wasn't great in the first half, but those things both got on track later in the game. So 12 turnovers in the first half, only 3 in the second half. That's pretty good. And they finished 71% from the free throw stripe. So that certainly got better for Alabama as the game went on. But LeBaron Philon, he was a monster last night, 28 points for the Crimson Tide. Really, really good showing for him. Aiden Holloway, not a great night shooting from 3, but he still finished with 20 points. Had a big night from the free throw line. And I was, personally, I was really impressed with a few guys for Alabama that we hadn't really seen a lot of yet, but I thought Houston Millette played really well. Had some good shots get off there as he's working back from an injury. I thought Davion Hannah, that was a guy that he just reminded me, like, that's a dude that would win the Hard Hat Award. Like, just all over the floor. He might only give you, 8, 10, 12 points, but he's going to show up all over the stat box. I thought he was very, very, very impressive, just kind of stood out in all facets of the game last night. And then Taylor Ball Bowen, the transfer from Florida State, he was at times, arguably the best player on the floor that wasn't LeBaron Philon for Alabama. So good showing there. Fun to see both Alabama and Auburn the last couple of days get some action going in. And I know it's still football season, but basketball will be here before we know it.
Was this win over Florida State enough to erase what happened in football for you? Because I'm a big Alabama fan too in basketball, so like I was jumping for joy last night.
That's not how that works.
Oh.
I have no ill will towards Florida State after that loss. That was the best thing that could have ever happened, and I thank them for sending Alabama on the trajectory they're on now. So, no, we're good.
Oh, okay.
We were even going in, so now we're up one.
Gotcha.
So we are.
That's how it works.
Yeah, in my head, that is exactly how it works. So that's everything that you missed yesterday going on. Again, a jam-packed day of sports here in the Southeast, and I'm here for it. Always here for it. So, but we have to get to this college football weekend, what's coming up for us. So at 6:30, we're going to deliver you our picks. But before that, what's the latest going on with Alabama and Auburn? The things you need to know heading into tomorrow's matchups. We deliver them to you next here on JOX. Tennessee hate week. Nothing like it if you are an Alabama fan, as that game will take place tomorrow night at Bryant-Denny Stadium, 6:30 over on ABC. And I know a lot of people hoping that they're going to be able to enjoy a nice little cigar tomorrow night after an Alabama victory. But
You got
Tennessee
yours?
has one. No, I'm not going to do one because I'll be in the press box and I got to be professional.
But after the game?
Yeah,
yes. Of course. Well, that's if Alabama wins.
That is true. Got to win in order to smoke the cigar, and Tennessee has won 2 of the last 3 games. Granted, both of those have been at Neyland Stadium. So we will give you our picks again coming up in about 10 minutes. We will give you our thoughts on that matchup and many more coming up this weekend. But we do, as said, had to tell you what you need to know right now for Alabama and Auburn heading into those games. And that, of course, is your availability reports. So the good news for Auburn, so yesterday we told you both Champ Anthony and Brandon Frazier were listed as questionable. So now Champ Anthony has been upgraded to probable, so that's a good sign. He's expected to go for the Tigers tomorrow night. Brandon Frazier still listed as questionable, and Bryce Diaz, he's still listed as, or he's now listed as out. So that the linebacker going to be unavailable for Auburn tomorrow. But Champ Anthony getting upgraded there to probable, certainly a good sign for Auburn and their secondary. Now for Alabama, the good news, Jam Miller, he got upgraded to probable as well. So that's a positive sign that he will at least be, I would imagine, a game time decision at worst. But seems like he is trending towards being available for Alabama tomorrow. Hopefully that means he is back to 100% and fully available, but we will just have to wait and see. But certainly trending in the right direction there for Alabama. Jalen Mbakwe, he is also now listed as probable as well. Of course, he had the hand injury last week that we learned about. But something that you need to keep an eye on now is Danny Lewis, the tight end. He has been marked as questionable after not being on Wednesday's availability report. He was put on there yesterday and listed as questionable. So maybe that's something that's going to have a little bit more of a bearing on tomorrow's game, as he's certainly, somebody that you're used to seeing out there on the field for Alabama offensively. So need to be up to 100% if you can be for this Tennessee matchup, because they are not going to be easy. For the Vols side of things, Deshaun Bishop, their running back, he's upgraded to probable, so that's good news for them. Ethan Davis, their tight end, he is listed as questionable. And then you have Edward Spillman, one of their linebackers. He's going to be out for the first half after a targeting call in the Arkansas game. So that's worth keeping a note of. And then we mentioned it yesterday, but if you didn't hear, there was a belief that maybe Jermod McCoy would be able to come back this game for Tennessee. He's their best defensive back, but that is not going to be the case. So he's still going to be out. So that's bad news if you're a Tennessee fan, good news if you're an Alabama fan.
Yeah, and I really don't think he would have made that much of an impact, even if he would have returned, because, one, you haven't played all season, and then the first receiving core you're going to see is Alabama.
That'd be tough.
And the way that they're peaking right now, it doesn't necessarily seem ideal, to quote-unquote knock the rust off. Jeremy Bernard has done nothing but be consistent. Ryan Williams, even though last week he was, I think, a little bit more hurt than people kind of realize, even I realized. But he still made an impact because of some of the routes that he was running. He was running people off, and you still had the spotlight on him. And, of course, Isaiah Horton, who's starting to really, really be an X factor, kind of that wide receiver 3 role. But I think that for Alabama, of course, the Jam Miller injury, if he can go, we know what he can do. He's done nothing but produce since he's gotten back into the lineup consistently. So I think that when you look at this game, and I even thought about it last year, and just how different this Alabama team looks offensively now as opposed to last season, kind of figuring things out with Jalen Milroe, the inconsistencies that we saw. But now when you see when Ty Simpson is in and how dialed in he's been since that Florida State game, you feel good about where your offense is, whether you have to do it through the air or on the ground, and just how smart he's been and the decision making he's had. And then that 4th down play last week against Missouri, that's a quarterback that knows that I believe in my guys. Like, no, that's my dude. And Lazier Brooks is a true freshman. Guy was playing high school ball last year. And for him to step up and make a play like that, you've got to feel really good offensively of where Alabama is. Defensively, yeah, you still got some question marks, but it seems as though you knocked Missouri out of their mojo. Like you made them one-dimensional, and basically said, "Bo Pereira, you're going to beat us," and he couldn't do it. So I think where Alabama is right now, the confidence going into this game feels a lot different than probably even Georgia, where it's kind of okay. This is kind of the measuring stick. You conquered that one, and ever since then, it's okay. Yeah, we're down. Let's get down to business. So I think that for Tennessee, you've got to stop the train that's coming in Alabama right now, and the way that they're peaking and the confidence. And I'll even admit it. Just reading the tea leaves on social media and things, you can tell like this rivalry is still got some hate in it. Like it's hilarious on both sides because both fan bases one hate their team at some point, and then they also still have pride for the team. It's almost like a sibling thing where it's I'm gonna protect mine. Like only I can talk about my team like this. You can't do it. Now, yeah, we may have some inconsistencies, we may have some ugly spots, but you're not gonna point that out. And it's funny, like even Marquise Mays, he is absolutely hilarious on Twitter anyway. But the way that he's going at Tennessee fans and stuff, like I love a good rivalry. Like you got to keep the hate in it, no matter how much we complain about NIL and just how the game is changing. You still got that hate out there, and I appreciate it. I love a good hater. Like it's just it keeps the game interesting.
No, it certainly does. It certainly does, and that's part of the rivalry where, I know people have asked me like, oh, I bet you hate the Tennessee's good. I like that the rivalry's good. I like that it's actually a rivalry because I mean, for the majority of my life, after I started watching football, and it's like, I mean, it was dominated by, it was dominated by Alabama. Like that stretch where Tennessee won, what, like 8 years in a row. After that, I mean, I was 4 years old when that stretch ended, right? So for the majority of my life, like that's kind of all I knew. I mean, Tennessee hasn't beat Alabama and Tuscaloosa in 22 years. Like it's been a while. You've won 2 out of the last 3, but now can you overcome that hurdle of getting a win in Bryant-Denny Stadium? But yeah, it's good to see that the rivalry has some bite back to it because it means something, right? And especially when you have games like this that could ultimately decide winners going to a college football playoff, loser maybe not going to college football playoff. So it's good to have some stakes going on with all of that. Let's quickly go before we get to our picks. Let's go to Don real quick. He has to get something off his chest about the Auburn Tigers this morning. Don, how we doing?
Hey, good morning, guys. And Damien, you forced me into calling, buddy. Conrad, I was trying not to predict the Auburn game because I'm frustrated and I'm hearing rumors about what John Cohen said yesterday.
So you're admitting that you're afraid. You're afraid to make a prediction.
Yeah, I mean, Damien, yes.
Are you afraid to make a prediction?
I am because my guy, we've been talking about it for 2 weeks. We don't know what the heck's going to happen.
So you're again. So you're just afraid to make a prediction.
I'm not going to lie, I am because I mean.
Okay, well that was a fun phone call that Damien didn't want to be a part of anymore. All right, well sorry Don. I thought we were going to get an Auburn prediction, but I guess that's not what's happening this morning. So we will give you our predictions though for the biggest games going on around the SEC. Going to throw in a big game outside of the SEC as well. But what do we think? What's going to happen with Auburn, Mizzou, Alabama, Tennessee, and much more? We're bringing you our picks next on JOX. Welcome back into the Friday edition of Morning Jocks. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you until 7 o'clock when we will hand you off to McElroy and Kublik in the morning. And we're about to deliver our picks for the weekend slate of college football action, but you can do the same as well because it is Final Score Friday over on the courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450 if you want to send in your final score predictions for all the games, one game, two games, however many from the weekend. You can do that right there on the courtesy GMC text line, and we will get to those coming up later in the program. All right, Damian, let's get started, though, as we will start with the 11 a.m. games going on in the SEC, and we have a fantastic 11 a.m. kickoff this week. So last week you had Alabama and Missouri, so you had a top 15 game going on in the 11 a.m. slot. Now you've got a top 20 matchup this week as LSU is going to travel to Nashville to take on Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt coming off of a bye, LSU, they are going to Nashville as a 2.5-point underdog. So wild to say, but this is the first time it's since what, like 1970, I think, the first time that Vanderbilt's been favored against a ranked opponent in insane. Football. It's absolutely wild. But again, Vanderbilt a 2.5-point favorite. The total is 48.5. I'll be honest with you. I think Vanderbilt's going to get it done in this one. And I think the reason for that is we have not seen LSU score more than 23 points against Power 4 competition this year. And if you're telling me all Vanderbilt's got to do at home in this game is score 24, 28 points to go away with a victory, I think they're more than capable of doing that. I think this is a very good Vanderbilt team. And I'm, again, defensively for LSU, don't have a whole lot of concerns. But offensively, I'm just still not sold on them yet. So I'm going to roll with Vanderbilt. I think they are able to pull off the, I guess not an upset, but get a big victory at home.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is we're having a discussion in 2025 that Vanderbilt is a better team than the LSU Tigers. And they are, because they know exactly who they are, both offensively and defensively. And if this game gets into one of those just grinded out, muddy, just ugly wins, it leans into Vanderbilt's favor because LSU is going to press offensively. And like you said, defensively, I have no issues with LSU. They just can't score. Mm-hmm. They can't. And I don't know if Garrett Nussmeier, if he's hurt. I don't know if he's just playing bad. Like it's just not working out this year. But I still think that for Vanderbilt, what you have with Diego Pavia, again, Vanderbilt's averaging 43 points a game. Never would have thought we'd be having that conversation. But right now, Vanderbilt is the better team. Give me Vandy at home.
All right, so me and Damian both taking the Commodores in that one, and as you mentioned, Vanderbilt is scoring 17.5 points per game more than LSU this year.
That's disgusting.
On average. That is, didn't have that on my bingo card, but that is where we are in college football. So moving down throughout the day, you have at 11:45, Oklahoma at South Carolina. Was last week's game against Texas a real red flag for Oklahoma moving forward, or are they going to get back on track against the South Carolina team that's looking to prove that they are worthy of the hype they were getting in the preseason? So Oklahoma, a 5.5-point favorite on the road. The total is 43.5. This one's tough for me, man, because there's a lot of me that wants to go, well, John Mateer just came back a week too early. He just wasn't ready for that. Texas was motivated coming off the Florida loss. They had heard about everybody trashing how bad they were and how bad Arch Manning was. And so they came out there with their hair on fire. And while that may be true, that doesn't change the fact that Oklahoma only scored 6 points in that game. Going on the road against South Carolina, I'm going to be honest, I'm calling for the upset. I think South Carolina is going to be able to get it done. I think John Mateer maybe still a little bit banged up and probably not 100% again. I like the Gamecocks at home. Give me the plus 5.5 for South Carolina.
I'm conflicted because it feels like that Shane Beamer recipe of everybody's counting you out. The season's pretty much done. We're shot ourselves in the foot. We're little old South Carolina. But Oklahoma, it feels like last week was one of those reality checks. It's a rivalry game. It's Texas. They're coming in a desperate team. And I'm with you. John Mateer may be a little bit more hurt than what we expected, and for him to come back, the pressure was on him, and he kind of melted under the pressure for the first time. I think it's a get-right situation for Oklahoma, though, because that defense, up until last week, had been playing pretty much the best in the conference. And I think it's one of those situations where Lenore Sellers, he's done everything for this unit, and I just don't think it's going to be enough. Like, he can't be Superman against an Oklahoma defense like that. Now, I think it may be one of the more lower-scoring games because offensively it's still taking some time for John Mateer to get it right and get it together. But I think Oklahoma squeaks by. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be one of those rough early morning games, but I think Oklahoma gets it done.
All right, so Damian likes the Sooners to bounce back. I'm taking South Carolina in that one. And quickly, you just look at South Carolina. So they just lost to LSU. Now they're playing Oklahoma, then Alabama, then Ole Miss, then Texas A&M.
It's a rough one.
It's going to be a rough stretch here.
It's going to be a rough October.
If you're going to get one of those next 4 games, this is probably your best chance. So let's see if they can pull it off. All right, at 2:30, moving on in the day, you have Texas A&M traveling to Fayetteville to take on Arkansas. Texas A&M, though, only a 7.5-point favorite in this one. And I'll say this. Look, I thought Arkansas, they showed some resiliency last week, making that game close and making it look interesting against Tennessee. I think they'll certainly be able to score some points, but again, now that we've started to see Texas A&M win games and put some distance between them and the opposition, I know they're going on the road. I know that this has traditionally been a weird kind of matchup, but those days are kind of in the rearview mirror, I think. I'll take Texas A&M. I think they're the much better team, and I think Arkansas I don't think they're going to be able to put up the same kind of effort they did against Tennessee.
Yeah, I just don't think Arkansas is going to be able to stop Texas A&M on the defensive side of the ball. I love Taylor Green. I love what he's been able to do, but it's just kind of a season where Sam Pittman's gone, Bobby P. They may be able to score maybe 30, but I think they're going to give up probably 50 on the defensive side of the ball. And I think they got a kind of not to say a bad dose of it last week, but it's kind of a false sense of confidence because you went up there and you competed with Tennessee. But I think Tennessee is kind of looking forward to what's happening this weekend, and it was like, all right, sorry we played around with y'all, but Texas A&M is probably going to take them out their misery. I think Texas A&M wins convincingly and kind of continues to show that they're one of the better teams in college football right now.
All right, me and Damian both rolling with the Aggies this weekend. Also at 2:30, the big one outside of Tennessee, Alabama for a lot of people in the state, of course, is Ole Miss and Georgia. So that's your top 10 matchup of the week. Ole Miss traveling to Athens to take on Georgia. Georgia's a 7.5-point favorite. And don't forget, Ole Miss won this game last year 28-10 and absolutely dominated the Bulldogs. But this time it's in Athens, so that changes things a little bit. I will say, I think 7.5 for Georgia, just with how close we've seen so many games be this year, that's a little rich for me. I would probably take Ole Miss from that standpoint if I were, a betting man. But in terms of who I think just straight up wins the game, I do think Georgia's able to get it done. I think Ole Miss makes it close. I think it's a great football game. But again, I'm going to give credit again to Georgia and Kirby at home. They're not playing Alabama, which is their Achilles heel. I think they're going to find a way. It's just hard for me to see Georgia being 5-2 this early in the season, but it certainly could be possible, and Lane has a really good chance of doing it, but I'm still going to roll with Georgia in this one.
I figured. I'm going with Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss gets them on the road because I think, believe it or not, Hugh Freeze kind of gave a little bit of the recipe last week, at least in the first half. And I think Lane Kiffin's a better offensive coach, and he's actually going to make some adjustments second half because Kirby's going to have some wrinkles there. He's going to coach his guys up. 7.5, yeah, I do think that's pretty thick because I don't think Georgia is as dominant as they have been. And they've already lost at home. They've already lost at home to an Alabama team. So it can be done. And also last year, Ole Miss was a more physical team. And the defense hasn't taken that big of a drop-off since last year. Offensively, we have Trinidad Chambliss. And we can run the football. We actually choose to run the football. And we have success with it. I think we go over there, hit Georgia in the mouth, and we handle our business. Ole Miss is the best team in the SEC, and we're going to prove that on Saturday. Hotty toddy. Give me Ole Miss.
All right, there you have it. Damian likes the Rebels. I like the Bulldogs. All right, this one at 3:15, Mississippi State traveling to Gainesville to take on Florida, a Florida team that might be fighting for their coach's life for what feels like the 10th time in the last 2 seasons. But that's just where we are when you're 2-4 as the Florida Gators. But Florida, a 9.5-point favorite at home. I will say this: I do think they win this game because of all the Billy Napier stuff going on. It just seems like a spot where they're going to win. But 9.5 against Mississippi State, I, I think the Bulldogs cover, but I'm going to take Florida to win. These are the moments where Billy's at his best, and who knows? Maybe they blow the doors off of Mississippi State. But I feel very good about Florida winning. I do not feel very good about them winning by double digits.
I just think Florida at home helps.
It does.
They're just different when they're on the road. Like, they competed well for most of the game against Texas A&M last week because I thought Texas A&M was just going to beat the brakes off of them from the jump. And them being at home, I think Mississippi State dealing with, the Fluff Bothwell injury. You're putting a lot on Blake Shapen and those boys. And I just think Florida, like you said, they just find a way to do it. They will go out there and look absolutely flawless. There'll be a pick six. There'll be a safety. There'll be something that just completely turns that game sideways. I think Florida handles their business at home against Mississippi State and saves Billy Napier's job for another week.
All right, so that's the early slate, but of course, tomorrow night you're going to have Tennessee, Alabama, and Missouri and Auburn. So we will deliver those picks to you. We'll also get to your Final Score Friday predictions on the Courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450 as the conversation rolls along on a Final Score Friday here on JOX.
6:47 here on Morning Jocks. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order here with you for a few more moments as we get you set for McElroy and Kublik in the morning. It's kind of cool. Both of the guys are going to be at their alma maters this weekend. Cole on the call on the SEC Network for Auburn and Mizzou. And old Greg McElroy has a third Saturday in October. Back-to-back years. Back-to-back years. But last year he was on the call for a Tennessee victory, so I guess he held on to the same cigar he had last year because I guess, professionally he has to do his job, but after the game, him and Roll Tide Willie probably hanging out.
You think so?
Smoke him if you got him. Smoke him if you got him. Isn't that what you say?
Yeah, I think me and him are going to go hang out and, all our old watering holes and smoke our cigars and all that fun stuff after the game. If Alabama wins.
Absolutely.
Because nothing is guaranteed.
No.
You don't want to jump to conclusions or anything like that.
Roll Tide.
So it'll be fun to see all the Tennessee and Alabama fans that are mad at Greg on the broadcast this week because that seems to be how it goes every weekend, and we love you, Greg. At least we do. All right, let's get to our final picks of the week because we have to make our predictions for Alabama and Auburn this weekend. So let's start off with the Auburn Tigers. That's going to be your 6:45 p.m. kick on the SEC Network. You can also hear it here on the JOX family of networks. Number 16, Missouri. They roll in to take on a 3-3 Auburn team. Auburn 0-3 in the SEC. Missouri 1-1. Auburn opened as a slight favorite in this one, but Missouri, they are now a 1.5-point favorite. The total sitting at 43.5. I know this is going to be a shock to a lot of people. You got to pick Missouri. And I'm just saying, like, what have we seen from Auburn that gives you the confidence that this is the week? Now, can this be the week? Absolutely. You absolutely can win this game if you're Auburn. But why should I expect that it's going to look any different than what we've seen in the 3 SEC games you played so far? I know it's at home. That sets up well for you. I think their quarterback is vulnerable. You can make him mess up as we saw him do at home last week against Alabama. Just don't let Ahmad Hardy run for 250 on you, right? Limit him. Run the football offensively. And if Jackson Arnold, man, it just feels like if he can complete one big throw down the sideline, right? Maybe that's all he needs to get the confidence. It's right there for Auburn. But why should I believe that this is going to be the week? So give me Missouri. I think they win. I think it's a close one. I think Auburn makes it very competitive. But until further notice, I can't pick Auburn to beat a good team.
And I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think for Missouri, it kind of fits. It's almost very similar to Vandy and LSU where Auburn's already struggling offensively as it is, and defensively for Missouri, they make it difficult for you. Like, you're not just going to be able to go up and down the field on them. And you flip it around offensively, if they establish the run game, they can limit your possessions. And I think Ahmad Hardy is probably a little ticked off that, man, I didn't get as many touches as I wanted last week. Now, Auburn's defense has kept them in ball games, but offensively, 3 and out. At least in the second half, it's kind of one of those, what are we going to get? Are we going to get a full game of what we saw in the first half against Georgia? I don't know. It just kind of feels that it's not the recipe or this isn't the team across that you're going to figure it out against. So I think Missouri wins a low-scoring matchup. I'm with you. Until I see it, I just don't think it's going to happen against a team like Missouri. I just don't. And now we're going to be sitting at potentially 0-4, start SEC play for Auburn. It's going to be some uncomfortable conversations here on Monday if it goes the way that we've predicted.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to say the least, but we'll see if Auburn can turn their fortunes around tomorrow night on the Plains. All right, also tomorrow night, 6:30 kickoff on ABC. You've got Tennessee and Alabama. Tennessee ranked number 11, Alabama ranked 6th in the country. Tennessee, they are 5-1 overall, 2-1 in the SEC. Alabama 5-1 overall as well, but they are 3-0 in the SEC. Alabama an 8.5-point favorite. Total sits at 59.5 as it stands right now. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think that this is a game going into it. Alabama has the advantages on paper, but Tennessee is they're very, very solid. And I think if it gets into a track meet type situation, that probably favors Tennessee more than it does Alabama because we haven't seen Alabama be able to put together a full 60-minute scoring barrage outside of, I guess, the ULM game. So maybe they can do that, and maybe this is the game we need to see that from. But I do think that Ty Simpson and that passing game, the biggest discrepancy in this matchup is that part of Alabama's game versus the secondary for Tennessee, which is the worst in the Southeastern Conference. I think it's a close one. I would take Tennessee to cover the 8.5. I think it is a one-score game, but I do think Alabama walks away with a victory. So I think Alabama wins straight up, but if you're asking me to take them 8.5 right now, I'm going to take Tennessee. Give me Alabama 35-28. Do you have something you would like to say?
I've been just literally all week long fighting it. But I have to admit, Joey Aguilar is the closest thing to Hendon Hooker that Tennessee has had since then.
There's been one other quarterback since then.
No, they've had two. Joe Milton and also Nico.
Oh, yeah.
And Tennessee won with Nico last year. And the best thing I can say, I think Josh Heupel offensively, he's built this team to where they can actually make it a fist fight if they need to. They've had some success running the football, and the two times that it's been in Tuscaloosa since Josh Heupel's been there, the first year it was tied 24-24 going into the fourth quarter. Now the fourth quarter, they ran out of gas. They didn't have the Jimmies and Joes like they have now. And again, when Joe Milton was there, Tennessee had a 14-3 lead at one point, and they weren't able to sustain it. I think they're an overall better team than they have been going into Tuscaloosa this year. And I like what I've seen so far from Joey Aguilar. I think it's going to be one of those. I think it's going to be another shootout. I'm not going to say 52-49 type thing, but I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and it leans more towards what Tennessee has been able to do as far as jumping out to early leads. I can see this game kind of looking very similar to Florida State, where Alabama finds himself down early on. But I think that the talent in which Tennessee has, they can sustain the lead. So I think Tennessee wins a close one, but it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be an exciting game nonetheless.
What a surprise. Damian, he fooled all of you. He's still a Tennessee fan.
Whoa.
You've spoken with more passion in the last 2 minutes than you have about anything I've ever heard you say about Ole Miss. Quickly, some of your texts. Bama Abroad says, smoke them if you got them. Tied 38, Tennessee 31. Proctor finally finds the end zone.
Hey.
Let's see. This one says, Tennessee DBs will be tested, but I think that young and experience is a bad recipe versus the Tennessee offense. Give me Tennessee, Ken says.